Giancarlo Stanton and the Miami Marlins travel to New York to face the Mets.
Left right field towards the corner. Gone!
The pregame's at 3:30 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 4:30. Saturday on ESPN Radio.
We're coming to you from the DraftKings.com podcasting studios. DraftKings.com, America's one-day fantasy sports site, where it's like a new season every time you play. DraftKings.com.
From ESPN's Pod Center, this is NBA Lockdown.
Welcome into another edition of the NBA Lockdown podcast alongside Amin, Elhassan. I'm Jorge, Sedano. So, Amin, we'll get to the Eastern Conference Finals in just a bit. But we start with the West, where a ton of questions here. Number one, why can't the Rockets have done this earlier? Number two, should Steph Curry have gotten back in the game? Number three, what to expect from Dwight as far as potential punishment moving forward? But let's start with number one, which is why haven't the Rockets been able to put this kind of effort forward earlier?
Well, I think part of that has to do with the Warriors' sense of urgency not being quite there to start the game with. The Rockets got on a hot start. Obviously, anytime Josh Smith drains 3 threes, you're not exactly expecting that.
You got a lot of grief for that on Twitter, by the way.
It's like, the funny thing is, like, here's the thing. Here's the dirty little secret about Twitter. It's just like everything else. There's like a minority of 5-10% people who are very vocal. And they don't represent their entire fan base. But because they do all the talking, it makes it very easy to seem like, oh, these guys from Houston, they're just a bunch of clowns, right? And I had more than a couple of Rockets fans tweet me and say, hey, man, look, I'm with you right here. It's great that he made these shots, but we're praying that he just leaves it there. So, but other than that huge explosion to start the game, I mean, pretty much even game after that. Or actually, to be honest, the Warriors outscored them after that first quarter. Obviously, it wasn't enough. But having that cushion, coming out with that great fire intensity because you know your season is on the line, and then building a big enough cushion can give you enough confidence throughout the rest of the game. And I think that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, look, the other thing is, on top of them hitting their shots, obviously, I think they were 10 of 15, I guess, in the first half on three-point shooting, the Rockets were. Look, I just don't feel like, look, Steph didn't play very well at the beginning, even before the injury. So I think that if you're the Rockets, if Steph's not playing well, then, you know, you're okay with everyone else getting off because really he's the catalyst there for everything that they do. So now, granted, I don't know how sustainable that is. He certainly, you know, struggled immediately after coming back from his injury, but then started to kind of get back into the flow. It was just too little too late. But what did you make of the fact that the Warriors were able to make that push without him? Is there anything to that, or do you think that's just one of those anomaly-type situations?
No, it's not an anomaly. There's a couple of things. First of all, let's not act like the Rockets made incredible, impossible shots. They made open shots, 10 of 15. A lot of those looks were open. The Warriors didn't defend very well to start that game. And so they brought upon themselves to start, but, you know, as was expected, they adjusted, right? They got chewed out in the timeout and in the quarter break, and then they came back and they adjusted, and they defended a lot better from then on out. Now, as far as the offensive output goes, you know, Klay Thompson is a guy that scored 27 in a quarter, so we shouldn't be surprised ever. And again, one of my favorite things to watch is when things go wrong. How do players respond? Do they respond by doing what they do just at a higher level, or do they try to go out of character? I thought in the Memphis series and at times in this series, we saw Klay Thompson try to do things out of character. Create off the dribble, behind the back, crossing over on Tony Allen. That's not your game, homie. But last night in that second quarter, Klay was one dribble, pull up, fire. Doesn't matter where I am. I'm hitting this. That's Klay's game. Yeah, that was more aggressive than we're used to seeing him be, but he was aggressive doing what he does. And I think that's a huge difference right there.
The Rockets, obviously, on their end, too, picked up the tempo. They had 37 points in transition, which is the most by a team this postseason in general. And they scored 25 of those 37 points in the first half, including 15 of those in that first quarter barrage. Harden, obviously, played very well. he had, in game 3, he was only 1 of 9 when he was matched up against Iguodala or Barnes, and he went 4 of 7 against those guys. And really, he just kind of took it out on everybody yesterday. So now what's happening is everyone is tempting Little B again. I saw that Sports Nation is talking about Little B and the curse not working. Even TNT, now they were smart. TNT tempted Little B and taunted Little B, and then they deleted the tweet. So they obviously are very afraid of the Little B curse. I don't blame them. Little B, if you're listening to this podcast, I am in your corner. I respect you. I will give you all the props and the love. I will give you everything I need to give you as far as admiration is concerned, love, and kudos and props in regards to making sure everyone knows that I'm doing your dance. It's your dance. I just want to make sure that everyone knows that.
You know, George, I'm a big fan of giving attribution to the originator, right? So, I have my After Dark podcast, Spreecast, and there are some others out there that really haven't given attribution, and they've got a little B curse on them as well. So same thing here. Hey, if that's his dance, if he's flicking the wrist, he was the first one to do that, you got to give him props. I give him props. He's going to be in the game, by the way. He's going to be at Game 5. Did you hear that?
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's going to be in attendance at Oracle. So we might have some in-person cursing. Not cursing, but cursing.
That's going to be fantastic. Oh, my God. So Little B, who follows me on Twitter, but he also follows about 1.175 million people. He follows pretty much everybody. Just in case you're listening, we're all good. At least you and me, Amin and you, we're all good. We're good on this particular podcast. So anyhow, the Steph Curry stuff. I tweeted this out yesterday, and I don't think people got what I meant when I tweeted it out. And you can follow us on Twitter, obviously, at Amin ESPN, AMIN ESPN, and myself, Sedano ESPN. That's SEDANO ESPN. So I tweeted out a lot of Twitter MDs out here when Steph Curry was out, and it looked like he may or may not come back in. Yeah, and I'm like, and the reason I tweeted that out is because everyone was going crazy saying he should be in, he shouldn't be in, and then you had the NFL media caping for the NFL. Oh, if the NFL did this, they would be absolutely torched today. And I'm like, first of all, this is basketball, this isn't football. They don't collide for a living, okay? In the NFL, you can't bring a guy back in because the risk of him having another head injury is very likely because they're hitting each other and colliding like car crashes for a living, okay, on every play. So that's not basketball. So let's start there. Like NFL media, stay in your lane, all right? Stay in your lane, NFL media. I'm not going to call you out individually. I'm going to call you out as a record label, a group, and a posse, and whatever else I need to call you out at. You guys know who you are. Y'all sound silly yesterday, okay? Stop it. You sound silly. All right, this ain't football, so stop. I know football is the most popular sport in America, but not every sport is like football. I know Dellavedova plays like it's Australian rules football out there, but this ain't the NFL. Okay, this is the NBA, and there is not as big a risk, if at all. Well, no, I'm not going to say at all, but there's not as big a risk, obviously, for another head injury. Now, what happened to Steph Curry was scary. I don't think anyone can disagree with that. He's very fortunate that he's okay, and not just, from obviously his head, but his shoulder, his wrist, his forearm, the way he fell on his arm was very scary as well. They were holding his arm as they were walking to the locker room originally. And by the way, it did feel like they were walking like the length of a football field, speaking of a football field, just to get to the freaking locker room. I don't know what the hell that was all about. But anyway, my ultimate point is there were a lot of Twitter MDs, and my ultimate point on it, Amin, was, look, man, I'm not a doctor, okay? I don't know what is going on there and what goes into these baseline tests and these concussion protocol tests, but I'm going to trust the doctor there in this case. And I know there's a lot of mistrust of doctors specifically because of football, but exactly. in this particular case, it's the NBA. I'm going to trust the doctor. I'm not a doctor. So no one on Twitter knew what was happening, okay? No one knew how he felt. No one can be in his head, literally and figuratively. And, again, I got to trust the doctor in that spot. That's all I'm saying. Like all the Twitter MDs that were saying he should or should not be in there, how about we just let them decide that they're gonna know what's at stake here more so than we know what's at stake.
You know my favorite part.
Go ahead, you go now. I'm sorry, I ranted for too long.
No, hey man, that's fine. Like, because you were hitting a lot of points. My favorite part was when someone tweeted, I saw the look in his eyes, and that looks like a concussion. I was like,
Yes, stop. I know. Get out of here.
no, but here's the funny thing. This happened the other night, too, with Damari Carroll. With Damari Carroll, landed wrong. And then, oh, no, like people said, oh, that's a torn ACL. That's a torn ACL. And I was like, well, it looked bad, but at the same time, it could be a lot of things, Now, I won't lie. When Steph fell, I was like, oh. When Marcus Thompson, the great columnist for the Contra Costa Times over there in the Bay Area, he tweeted, they're bringing the stretcher out. That's when I lost it. I fainted like Scarlett O'Hara. Oh my God! I collapsed in the ground. Not stuff, everything. When they said stretcher coming out, I won't lie. I got shook up. But again, like you said, I don't know how that guy was feeling. I don't know what his complaints are. And actually, watching the replay, what was more worrisome for me was his left hand lands, and he could have rolled and snapped that wrist, and instead it just happened to slide. And then he lands on his right wrist under his body with his shoulder kind of on his shoulder. So for me, I was like, you're telling me that nothing happened to his arms there? That's pretty incredible, knock on wood, that he was able to have that kind of tumble and not suffer any snap bones or dislocated joints or anything like that. But as far as the concussion goes, there's no way anyone watching on TV can determine whether that dude has a concussion or not. And the best tweet I saw on this topic was someone said if Curry hadn't missed his first 2 shots coming back, medical Twitter wouldn't have anything to say right now. If he had made those 2 shots, remember his first one was an air ball and the second one was blocked. If he makes those 2 shots, Twitter MDs get silent really quick. But the fact that somehow that he missed his shots after a long layoff, that somehow that's proof positive. Oh, see, I told you he's not right. It's ridiculous.
Well, and then the funny part was after that, he came out after he missed those 2 shots. He drove to the lane again and created 2. Well, actually, what ended up being 3 wide open threes for his teammates, and then started to hit shots again. So it was everybody all of a sudden was Doogie Howser. You know what I mean, on Twitter yesterday. Everybody was Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. That's just kind of how that thing worked yesterday.
Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. Wow, you're pulling out the classic, the '90s CBS lineup right there. Hey, but
Doogie
George,
was ABC. Doogie was ABC.
George, I will say this though. I will point this out. You're absolutely right. The reason why people react like that is because of one thing and one thing only. It's because the NFL and the way they treat their players, and because the NFL media trying to cape. Guess what? When the NBA gets sued for $1 billion for head injury trauma, then you can come and start caping and pointing fingers.
#hate hard.
This is an NFL problem, and because of that, and the stories that we hear of NFL players being trotted out despite various ailments, brain injury or otherwise, and say, rub some tussin in it and you'll be all right. That doesn't happen in our league. That doesn't happen in our league. We've had, every once in a while, Harrison Barnes a couple of years ago had a concussion in the playoffs and returned to the game. That was regrettable. And we changed concussion protocol, I believe, as a result of that. But this isn't the norm in our sport. And so to kind of apply this one-size-fits-all approach because it's happening, because it's epidemic in another sport, is incorrect.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think it was, again, we and you know what? Fans tend to do this stuff too sometimes, like in different markets. Like they start freaking out when it comes to the NBA. Let's give them an example. Like let's say, there's certain regular season matchups that we tend to highlight because they're great teams going against each other. But at the end of the day, the actual matchup doesn't mean anything because it's not something that the regular season successes or failure aren't necessarily direct correlations to how these teams will react when they face each other in the postseason. So what ends up happening is we have this overreaction to, oh, Team X lost to Team Y 3 times in the regular season. And that doesn't always mean they're going to lose in the postseason when they meet each other. There could be a lot of different circumstances there. Now, look, in this particular case with the Warriors, they've owned the Rockets, and that's it. But
I think it is.
See, but I don't. Like, you know what? I saw too many years of LeBron and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh getting owned by the Celtics and the Bulls and all these teams in the regular season.
There's a difference between two relatively evenly matched teams, and for whatever reason, a regular season series tilted, in one way than the other. And the Warriors are just a better team than the Rockets. I'm not, that's at some point we've got to acknowledge this, that the Warriors in every single one of these matchups, they are the vastly better team. They are, okay. No, and so
sure.
In those cases when it's like that, then the regular season matchup is indicative. Now, does that guarantee victory in the playoffs by just showing up? Absolutely not. And I think that's your point. When we get to the playoffs, it's a different animal because you're playing the same team over and over again. You're scouting tendencies.
Correct.
It's much more detail driven than it is in the regular season where I'm flying to Houston tonight. Tomorrow I'm in San Antonio. I forgot about my Houston game already. You're absolutely right in that context. But again, and also in that context, that's why a lesser team can win. So the example I always give is in 2010 when I was at the Suns, we played the Lakers. The Lakers were the better team. We knew they were the better team. Defending champs, then the finals 2 years in a row at that point, they were loaded. But we felt like if we do this, this, and this, we can take them out of their comfort zone. And if we take them out of the comfort zone, we can win this series. And we came pretty close. But ultimately, it didn't work because, Ron Artest makes a layup, and then in the next game, their talent takes over, and the better team wins. That's just the way it goes. But we'd be amiss if we weren't saying the Warriors are a much better team.
Okay, in those instances when you have a team that you know is better than the other, that's different. But right, I'm talking about even most teams in the postseason, if they're meeting late in the playoffs, most teams, there's obviously, outliers, but most teams are pretty evenly matched. Okay, so that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Anyhow, the point is that I was making was that people tend to overreact over the regular season. And in the NFL, it's understandable to an extent because there's only 16 games as opposed to in other sports where in basketball there's 82, there's 80 some odd in hockey, there's 162 in baseball. And we start applying, because football is so popular, people start applying those sensibilities to other sports, and that's not the case. Yes. And this is another just example of that in regards to the concussion protocol and the way that Steph Curry was dealt with.
You're absolutely right there. People think about other sports through the lens of football.
Right. So, anyway, with that said, you giving the Rockets any chance to make this a series or no?
I hate to have to say this, but pending how Steph Curry feels. If the MVP isn't feeling right, then, yeah, of course, Houston can make it a series, but I don't see Houston coming out having the kind of first quarter they had in Houston up in Golden State, up in that loud building, and with Little B in attendance. I just don't see it happening.
Well, and Dwight, what do we know about Dwight? Like, is Dwight going to be able to play?
Oh, that's a big question. Hey, that's you know what? It's funny because, first of all, can we agree? What did you think? Do you think he should have been ejected?
Well, look, based off the way that
No. I mean, look, George, what did you think? I hate when people start saying, "Well, if they're saying no, I don't care."
Okay, no.
Based on how the NBA is, how did you feel?
Look, if Al Horford gets tossed and Taj Gibson gets tossed, then Dwight should get a toss. Now, I don't think any of them should have gotten tossed, personally.
Right.
But if you're going to be consistent, be consistent. Like, that's my point.
Right. Here's my thing. I didn't agree with Taj Gibson getting tossed. I thought he was provoked. He was very provoked. I didn't agree with Al Horford getting tossed. I thought he was provoked, although that one was unintentional. And I didn't think that Dwight Howard should have got tossed last night because he was provoked. They were like Bogut right before he caught that blow. Bogut took two hands and shoved the heck out of him. So to me, I just don't think that we can. I mean, I guess I get it what people are saying. Like, oh, if you do this to this guy, this to this guy. I just don't. How many times can we make the same mistake? How many times can we make the same? People don't want to see. It's not a fight, right? It was just dudes roughhousing a little bit. Technical fouls. Go on about your business. Not everything has to warrant this death penalty. It's killing. Now, the problem is, as you said, because of the precedents, there's going to be a lot of pressure for the NBA to upgrade that foul to a flagrant 2. And if it's upgraded to a flagrant 2, Dwight Howard will have accumulated the minimum amount of
4 points to get suspended for 1 game, right?
To suspend it for 1 game. So if he gets suspended for Game 5, that's not good news for the Rockets.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he'll get suspended? I think it's going to happen. I think they painted themselves into this corner. They painted, because what he did was exactly the same as what J.R. Smith did to Jay Crowder. It's exactly the same thing. Jay Crowder shoved J.R. Smith in the back. J.R. Smith retaliated with a closed fist roundhouse behind the back, just lash out. I don't know what I'm hitting, but I'm swinging wildly. And Dwight did the same exact thing. And because of that, I think let me tell you something. Let's go behind the curtain here. This is what happens with NBA teams when things like that happen. There is a website that you log into as a team, and you can it has every call in there, and you can select. There's a drop-down menu, and say protest call, and it'll give you a selection of what are your reasons for protesting. And so the Warriors are going to go into that site, and they're going to click on that call, and they're going to select, grounds for should have been a flagrant 2, and then in the explanation box, they're going to cite other examples, and I would be surprised if the Jay Crowder, J.R. Smith play isn't a prominent one. Because I know a lot of people were pointing to Horford and Gibson, and the Crowder, J.R. Smith one is almost exactly the same. The only difference is J.R. Smith made contact, and Bogut, Howard grazed Bogut because Bogut pulled back a little. That's the only, but it was the same exact play.
Yeah, I mean, I could see them totally suspending him. But the other part is, man, if you're the league, do you want to suspend Dwight Howard? And basically, obviously things can happen, but, stranger things have happened. But you're, in essence, almost eliminating any chance of the Rockets winning that game.
Let me tell you, nothing stranger has happened. Coming back from 0-3, nothing stranger has happened. So
No. I'm talking about stranger things have happened in regards to winning a specific game, like one game without your star.
To me, I don't think you can make rulings based on where the series is, where the game is. That's what got him in trouble in the first place, right? Is this idea, well, we can't eject him because of the game. You can't. That's why what Coach Van Gundy was talking about yesterday, was it Coach Van Gundy who said it? That Secaucus should make the call. Make the call. Make the call. Let's have it done objectively. Removed from the crazy crowd. Removed from screaming coaches.
I like that. Yeah.
Someone else make the call, and let's get the call done quickly. So we don't have this huddle around the monitors for 15 minutes. My old man is watching a game with me, and he can't understand. My dad's not a huge basketball fan. He's more of a soccer guy. So he can't understand this whole, wait, we're just going to stand around while these guys watch TV? And then what are they listening to on the headphones? Are they worried that he may have said, I'm going to hit you with my closed fist? It's for the person outside looking in, it really is a ridiculous scene for our game to get stopped and stalled on these little TV viewings. Let the caucus make the call. Let's get this out of the ref's hands, and so everyone can go about their day.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you when it comes to that. But, I mean, I guess it wouldn't surprise me if he gets suspended, but I don't want to see it because I'd like to see, maybe I'm being biased here because I'd like to see a better series. I still think, though, I guess my original pick was Warriors in 5, so I probably shouldn't want Dwight to play. But I just want to see the best series possible because I feel like these conference finals have been a dud for the most part. I know the first 2 games in this series were good, but they're going to end up being duds.
Why is everyone wanting to delay the finals because we want to see a good series now? I want to see a great finals.
Right.
How many years have we
but
gone?
here's the thing.
How many years? Hold on.
I mean, we're going to have way too many days off here, like to do nothing.
Oh,
it's
it's
going to be like
alright.
a Super Bowl hype thing.
That's exactly. Let's do it. Let's talk. Let's dissect the many ways the Warriors will guard LeBron and all that. Let's get into it already. To me, I want the best two teams to get to the finals and be healthy. Every additional game is a game where Steph Curry can land on his head, where LeBron James can land awkwardly on his ankle. I don't want that. I don't want this to be Warriors Cavs. Oh, by the way, Curry's out for the series, or LeBron's out for the first two. I don't want that. I want peak basketball in the finals. And I think of all those years where we complained, the NBA Finals are happening in the Western Conference Finals. For once, we're actually going to get the NBA Finals in the NBA Finals. Let's not derail that.
Well, the last 2 years, I think we've gotten. The last couple of years, I feel like we've gotten the NBA Finals and the NBA Finals. Like any of those Heat years, you don't think you got the best teams out there, basically? I mean, at least the Spurs, the OKC, right? I mean, Dallas. They got hot. Dallas probably wasn't the best team that year, right? They got hot.
Right. All right.
But
anyway.
I think we've had it. We've had it. This is, pre-LeBron kind of figuring himself out, as far as being a more well-rounded player, we had that. I think since then we've seen the best matchups, and this is probably what we'll end up seeing too. So anyway, with that said, you mentioned the conference finals, so we'll see if Dwight gets in or not. I'd like to see a better matchup personally. But I wouldn't be surprised if he gets tossed and he doesn't play in the game.
By the way,
and then little B will take credit, as he should.
There you go. He will have affected it. By the way, there is also a selfish reason why I want the finals matchup just to get set. Let's move over it. I booked my travel already. Hotels, flights, everything, baby. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
When people want to talk about, there's a media bias, like. This time, you're damn right. Atlanta, Houston, sorry. I will not be traveling to your cities.
All right, so let's take a quick break here. In 60 seconds, we'll discuss the Eastern Conference Finals. And can Atlanta just get one? Can I get just one rib? Can I get one? That is one of my favorite Chris Rock lines ever. Can I get just one rib? Can we get just one win? That is a great movie. I think very underrated, one of the best comedies I've ever seen in my life. Anytime Jim Brown can be in a comedy, you don't get that very often. That in itself is awesome. All right, so in 60 seconds, we'll talk Eastern Conference Finals next here on the NBA Lockdown Podcast.
Geico presents Strange Saving Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Welcome back to the NBA Lockdown Podcast alongside Amin, Elhassan. I'm Jorge Sedano. So in the East, we've got LeBron basically doing it all himself. And, we talked about the whole Horford thing, I guess, before. Man, I watched that Hawks team, right? And at the end of the game, look, I know Budenholzer's the coach of the year. But I think Bob Voulgaris may have tweeted this, and I could be wrong, but Bob Voulgaris might have tweeted that something to the effect of that Budenholzer is the coach of the year, but is it more related on the system as opposed to individual moments of coaching? And I thought that was a great question. And hopefully I'm attributing it to the right person, and if I'm not, I'm sorry. But what do you make of that comment?
I think here's the funny thing, and Bob's guilty of this as well. I think people look at coaching as this buffet, like it all comes together. If you're a good coach, you do all of these things right. And we don't, far too often, we don't accept that you may be great at one thing and merely okay at another, right? So what Bob is implying is that he's the coach of the year, he built this great system, but when it came to making these little tweaking adjustments in the game, he didn't do that.
Right, and I think he was referring
to.
I think he was referring to the end, towards the end of the game, in the end of the fourth quarter, end of overtime, where Teague is getting taking a shot very far away from the basket. I mean, you're talking about Shelvin Mack taking multiple shots at the end of the overtime. I think that's what he was referring to.
Well, George, let me just say two things. One is, again, as I've said many a time, I've been very upfront about this. You guys all deified Jeff Teague all year long, calling him one of the best point guards, and I steadfast said, he's all right. There's a lot of dudes you can plug in there and will look just as good as Jeff Teague. That's one. But the other thing is, as a coach, it's not NBA 2K. I don't control the minds of my players out there. Like, I might have drawn up the greatest thing. I'm going to say, all right, Jeff, we're going to get you to the front and back, da-da-da. And then he decides to pull up. Shelvin, catch a swing. If you get it with your feet set, let it rip. Like, these guys, at the end of the day, may make their own decisions on the court. That's what makes the game so fun. It is that human element. It happens on every team. They asked Steph Curry the other day, what's the play call when you dribble around for, 20 seconds and then shoot? And Steph says, Steve just says, no. Yes! They are up, they do their own thing, man. Like, you can game plan and adjust and all that stuff. At the end of the day, players got to go out there and execute. They got to execute the plan.
Guys will break stuff off all the time, right?
All the time, yeah. So I don't know how responsible you can hold a coach for stuff like that. You can hold them responsible for the plays they run and don't work. And so that is, to me, I think Coach Bud did a great job this year. Steve Kerr was my pick for Coach of the Year, but I'm not going to sit here and, revisionist history. Well, that one play at the end, that end of that overtime, makes me question, were you really the Coach of the Year? Come on. I mean, if Pop is this great coach, then why did he lose to the Clippers, in Game 6 on his home floor? It happens, man. It happens to the best of us.
Sure. I mean, I get it, but it is one of those things where you wonder, like, hey, man, how does that happen? How does Shelvin Mack end up taking the shot for your season? Like, it's a fair question, no?
I mean, it is, and sometimes, like I said, things happen, man. Things happen on the floor. The guy found himself open, shot it, grabbed the offensive rebound, and then shot it again. Right? Sometimes it happens. What are you going to do? You're going to call a timeout and make sure someone else gets the shot? That's a wide open shot. Sometimes you just got to take it.
Yeah, I'm trying to look through his timeline to see if it was him. He did make some comments about Budenholzer, but maybe he wasn't the one that made that specific comment. Like, he had one that said, how can Buds just sit there and watch without calling an ISO or telling his guys to get out of the way and run clock? Which I think that was right. I mean, they rushed some shots there, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. They rushed some
again,
shots
and
there. So
by the way,
maybe he wasn't making that specific comment.
But still, it's the same thing. It's loud as hell in there. You're yelling. These guys can't hear you. They can't. Like, sometimes you just gotta let. And sometimes, by the way, sometimes being a good coach is letting them do their thing. Is trusting your players, right? That's a John Wooden thing, right? We do all the teaching and all the coaching and practice. When we get to the game, you'll know what to do. And so, I don't know, man. I think there are a lot of different things, and I think even if we can agree that Bud made a mistake at that moment, all right, man, he made a mistake in that moment. Like, this isn't the judgment day of Coach Bud right here. Which I guess this happens. It's like the Chris Paul thing. Chris Paul is incredible. Like, entire career, we tie this whole he's awful in the playoffs thing for like 3 moments in his life. Like 3 moments. Like, we're going to use those 3 moments to make a judgment about this dude's career. Like, come on, man. Lighten up. You made a mistake.
No, I get that. But anyway, Bob did point out that Mac did get a good look. And I agree with him on this. So I wanted to make clear, I don't know who it was that I read that made the original comment about Budenholzer. But I know somebody on NBA Twitter had it out there. But he did point out it was a good look by Mac. And I agree with this. The Millsap pass was pretty bad. I mean, Mac was lucky to catch it.
Yes, and this is where we get to talk about basketball nerdetry right now. Hit me with a nerd alert.
Nerd alert!
Right, so this is something that we talked about. There was a play in game 2, I believe. LeBron is driving. He spins in the lane and throws it to Iman Shumpert, I believe, in the right corner. But it's far wide and far out. Shumpert catches it, but by the time he catches it and brings it to shooting motion, defense is already closed out. And I tweeted, that's the difference between a wide open three and whatever abomination of a half-court set they ended up running and not scoring out of. Right there. These are the things that people, like when we were evaluating point guards in the draft, that's a huge thing for us is location. It's not just enough that you saw the dude. It's not just enough that you saw the dude and you hit him. You hit him at the right time in the right place, meaning did you get him right in the pocket? And when you use that kind of scrutiny on point guards, it eliminates a lot of dudes. Now, LeBron had that one bad pass, but I would say that's one of his stronger things, is that when he hits you, you get it right in your shooting pocket. You get it nice and comfortable. I talked to Jared Dudley back when Steve Nash was retiring, or when he got hurt at the beginning of the year. I did a piece about Steve Nash. I talked to Dudley and Channing Frye and a bunch of other guys that played with Steve. And I said, what is it about playing with Steve that makes it so different? And they said, as a shooter, you'll never catch a ball like a Steve Nash pass. It is so perfect. It is exactly how you like it. At the exact time, you are in rhythm, ready to go whenever you get the ball. He never throws an off pass. And so that play, 2 nights ago, Millsap to Mac, it was the right play. It was the right pass. But look at how much pass location affected that shot, as opposed to shoving Mac catches in the pocket. And that's not a criticism of Millsap. He's not a point guard. He's not LeBron. But it just goes to show, this is like the level of attention to detail that happens when evaluating players.
Yeah, no question about it. And by the way, I was right, I guess, originally. I did find the tweet where he said this. So now that we flip-flopped 3 times here.
Bob's going to kill us both. Bob's now going to kill us both on Twitter.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. But he did actually say it, and I kind of agreed with him. Now, you didn't. And he said, and this is your coach of the year, perfect example of a system coach versus an in-game coach. So he did say it. I just, for whatever reason, missed it when I was looking back at it now. But, yeah, look, I get what you're saying. That not everyone has the complete skill set. I mean, that's just not the way it works. And you're right, it does come down, and it comes down to execution. Like, I understand all that, and you can have all the plans, the right plans in the world, and the players still have to execute that plan. And we don't know if that was the case or not, and the coach is rarely going to run the players under the bus in that spot anyway.
By the way, the third part is maybe Bob is right, and Bud did make a mistake, but again, to take that mistake and say, system coach. Or could it just be the guy messed up?
Here's what I would say. This is where I think he makes a certain point. Like, look, man, I understand LeBron is awesome, and he's the best player on the planet. But if you look at this Atlanta team, and I understand they've been shorthanded as well, even when they were healthy, though, at the beginning of this series, you looked at them and you're like, what is going on with this team? And then you look at what they've done during the postseason. They look nothing like the team they looked like in the regular season. I mean, they had a spurt here and there, a game here or there against Brooklyn, and a game here or there against Washington where they looked like the Atlanta Hawks we saw in the regular season. And I think that's what he's making the point of, and I agree with that part.
Right. Yeah. You're talking to the guy who has Cavs in 4. Me and C.J. McCollum, only 2 guys in the nation. We had Cavs in 5. All right. So,
you did. You said it on my radio show.
But again, and by the way, if you guys don't know who we're talking about, go follow this dude, Bob Voulgaris. He is an incredible follow. He's incredible to follow on Twitter. We've had him on True Hoop TV Live. We should have him on the podcast at some point if we're doing guests.
Well, we may have a bunch of off days between the finals.
There you go.
We might as well get a good guest to get on and talk basketball about, because we're going to have to be sitting here and hyping this thing up like a Super Bowl for 2 weeks.
There you go. But so this isn't like, I'm not knocking Bob, right? I love Bob, and I think
I agree with him actually.
Yeah.
You're hating hard on Bob.
I don't agree with this particular point. I think he's rushing to judgment on this one. And although you're right, the Hawks haven't looked like the Hawks in the post and really in the last couple of months of the year. To me, I don't know how much of that is we can attribute to all of a sudden they're not making adjustments. All of a sudden they're not. I think, again, I keep going back to Cephalosha not being there. It makes a difference, man. Regardless.
Sure.
Of
No, we talked about that certainly at the beginning because you wanted that second guy to guard LeBron, and then now he would have been the primary guy at times guarding LeBron because of the injury to DeMarre Carroll. So, okay, can they get just one? Can they get just one? I mean,
oh man, this is what I said the other day, and I'm sticking to it. People were asking, do you think Horford's going to be suspended for Game 4? I said no, but I think him and the rest of his teams will be suspended for Game 5, 6, and 7.
This is wrong.
#hate hard.
Wow,
sorry, Atlanta.
And you definitely say Kyrie again, right? If you're
no, hey, why play him again? Why play him?
Yeah.
Even if the Hawks win, why play him?
Yeah.
Maybe Game 6. I would bring him back for Game 6 if there's a Game 6. But 4 and 5, no way.
Okay. All right, cool. By the way, did you see the comments LeBron made about Tristan Thompson?
No.
Well, we'll let you listen to him. Here's LeBron on Tristan Thompson.
Tristan should probably be a Cavalier for his whole career. There's no reason why he shouldn't. This guy's 24 years old. He's played in 340-plus straight games, and he's gotten better every single season. It's almost like what more can you ask out of a guy, even though we ask for more out of him.
Shocker. Shocker.
Okay, he is.
Shocker. No, hold on. No, hold on. You're telling me that the agent for a player wants this player to get paid and stay? And wow. You know what's funny? The last time I heard that was probably out of Dan Fagan's mouth. That's the same thing that Bill Duffy would say, or Mark Bartelstein. Really, LeBron? Oh, wow, you're such a magnanimous teammate who also gets 4% out of the guy's paycheck. Come on, man. He's not wrong, by the way, about his assessment about Tristan Thompson.
Agreed.
I'm just saying, it carries zero weight to me.
He did turn down 4 years, $52 million, at basically an average of 13 a year. What do you, former front office type, what do you pay Tristan Thompson?
Okay, so if the cap were not going to explode, I would have said 4 years, $13 million a year, that, okay, he's earned it now. Through the course of this season and this postseason, he's earned $13 million a year if the cap weren't going to explode. Problem is the cap is going to explode. So they actually made a very smart gamble by saying no to that and waiting for. And so with the cap about to explode, if you max out Tristan Thompson, it's not that egregious. It's within the realm of possibility. Because again, if you guys will humor me for a second, I will look it up on my computer here.
By the way, the Cavs could end up paying like crazy luxury taxes here very soon.
For 1 year.
A very crazy luxury tax bill. Yeah, for the 1 year. Right.
For the 1 year, it's worth it. And again, by the way, anytime you are contending for a championship, it's worth it. It's worth it.
Right, but I think Nate Duncan did the math for at Basketball Insiders, and it would be the bill would be something crazy like $89 million potentially if everybody comes back and everybody gets their money.
Are you coming to the finals, George?
I'm not. Not the first year in a long time. I'm not.
Oh man, I was gonna say, they have a casino built into their arena. He's fine. Let's not cry for Dan Gilbert.
I'm not. I'm just saying it's a heavy bill though.
So a Tristan Thompson extension, or it's not extension. It will be a free agent signing this summer at max. Would start him at 14.7. So it would average him at about 16.4 for the 4 years. That's going to be, you see what I'm saying? Like, for the team to pay a $3 million average over what they wanted versus the cap about to explode from the high 60s to the $90 million range, it's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah, so he'll be 4 years, $65.5 million, basically, somewhere around there.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just wanted to ask you what your thoughts on that were, and since we had the LeBron sound, and LeBron is in essence his agent too. So
all that said, it's funny like this, and people in Cleveland are going to be like, "You're such a LeBron hater," and George, you're just mad because he left Miami. But it's true. Like the source sometimes does taint the message. What he said is not incorrect. He's right. Tristan Thompson has gotten better. He's right. Tristan Thompson is durable. He's right. Tristan Thompson is not just a good kid. He's a great kid. He's a great personality. Every team wants a Tristan Thompson in their locker room, not only as a good spirit, a good energy guy, but also high motor. He plays hard as heck on that floor. But when the dude who basically represents him tells us these things, all I hear is shing shing, shing shing, shing shing, the cash register and I imagine LeBron saying this with dollar signs in his eyes, like the cartoon character. I don't want to hear you say it. I don't want to hear Rich Paul say it. There you go. That's the noise. I don't want to let someone else. Let J.R. Smith say it. Let Iman Shumpert kick for him. Don't let it be you, LeBron.
All right, that'll do it for us here today on the NBA Lockdown podcast. Don't forget, we'll be here the rest of the week during the postseason, Monday through Friday. You can download the podcast at ESPN.com/PodCenter or on iTunes as well. Check out Amin again on Twitter at Amin ESPN, AMIN ESPN. He'll be all over .com on SportsCenter. You can check me out on the radio show, the Sedano Show, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio. And on Thursday, I'm going to be sitting in on First Take. So I'll be in there with my buddies Kate Fagan and Freddie Coleman, as Stephen A. and Skip, I believe, are on a travel day for their show. So certainly a lot going on this week. We'll keep you posted. We'll see if we've got more games to talk about as the week progresses. But that'll do it for us. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. See you.
Thanks for listening to NBA Lockdown on ESPN Radio. For more great podcasts, check out the PodCenter page on ESPNRadio.com. Miguel Cabrera leads the Detroit Tigers into Anaheim to face Mike Trout and the Los Angeles Angels. The pregame's at 7 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN2 and on ESPN Radio.